Time in most video games is just a background detail. It passes, but it doesn't really matter. You can take 100 years to complete a quest, and the world will patiently wait for you. Enemies respawn, villagers repeat the same dialogue, and nothing really changes unless you push the story forward. But a handful of games treat time not as a passive backdrop, but as an active, merciless force. In these worlds, time isn't a system, it's the true antagonist. When games make time the enemy, they tap into something primal. It's a constant you can't fight, can't kill, and can never fully control. It creates pressure, urgency, and inevitability. This sense that you're racing against something that always wins in the end. Titles like The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask and Outer Wilds each use time differently. As a weapon, as a puzzle, as a punishment, and sometimes even as a gift. But what unites them is this feeling of limitation. These games trap you in cycles, countdowns, and loops, forcing you to master their rhythms before you can break free. When The Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask released in 2000, it was unlike anything Nintendo had done before. Following the monumental success of Ocarina of Time, fans expected another grand adventure through sprawling fields and epic dungeons. Instead, they got a strange, claustrophobic world stuck in a perpetual 3-day cycle. The moon hung low over the land of Termina, its jagged grin growing larger each hour until it eventually crashed into Earth, wiping everything away. The time loop in Majora's Mask wasn't just a gimmick, it was the spine of the game. Every character lived on a schedule. You could watch them move through their routines, face their fears, or accept their fates. You could help them or ignore them, but when the cycle reset, they'd forget everything you did. That mechanic gave the game an emotional depth rarely seen at the time. Progress came at the cost of impermanence. Every victory would have been undone, every connection erased, unless you had learned how to navigate the clockwork rhythm of the world. The constant countdown created a suffocating tension. That giant moon wasn't just a timer, it was a reminder. The more you played, the more you realized that you weren't saving the world once, you were saving it again and again, living through its final hours in infinite permutations until you found the perfect route. Majora's Mask turned time into an emotional weapon, teaching players to let go, to accept loss, and to find meaning even in cycles that always end the same way. Where Majora's Mask used time to evoke dread, Outer Wilds turned it into revelation. From the moment the sun explodes after 22 minutes of exploration, time in Outer Wilds isn't just a constraint, it's the structure of the entire universe. Every planet, every ruin, every fragment of information exists in a constant dance of destruction and renewal. You're not trying to stop the loop, you're trying to understand it. What makes Outer Wilds so extraordinary is that the loop doesn't measure your progress, you do. The only thing that carries over between cycles is knowledge. You learn where the sand flows on Ash Twin, when the quantum moon appears, and how ancient civilizations once stared into the same sun, knowing it would someday die. There's no inventory, no permanent upgrades, no material reward. The loop rewards curiosity itself. The 22-minute time limit isn't stressful in the traditional sense, it's contemplative. You feel the urgency of exploration not because the game pressures you, but because you want to see more before it all ends again. Every death is both failure and enlightenment, the clock resetting so that understanding can deepen. In Outer Wilds, time is not just the enemy, it's the teacher. And when you finally break free from the loop, you don't conquer time, you make peace with it. In Returnal, time isn't a system you learn to manipulate. It's a reflection of trauma. Housemarque's sci-fi roguelike traps its protagonist Celine on an alien planet where death only leads to rebirth. Each run begins with her crash landing again, whispering the same disbelief as she pieces together fragments of her past. The loop isn't explained by logic or science, it's psychological. It's grief given form. Every time Celine dies, she must repeat her struggle, fighting through distorted memories of her home, her guilt, and her choices. The looping structure transforms gameplay repetition, a core of roguelike games, into narrative meaning. The player and characters share the same frustration, the same exhaustion, the same desire to escape. The act of retrying becomes an emotional mirror. The tension in Returnal isn't just in its combat, but in its refusal to grant closure. Each cycle feels like progress and regression simultaneously. You learn patterns, defeat bosses, and unlock shortcuts. But the questions never stop multiplying. In this way, Returnal turns the loop into punishment and catharsis at once. It's a story about being unable to move on, and how the passage of time means nothing if the mind stays trapped in its own regrets. Deathloop takes the cyclical formula and reinterprets it through rhythm and control. In Arkane's stylish shooter, time is both an obstacle and a weapon. You're trapped in a single repeating day on the island of Blackreef, hunting 8 targets who reset with each sunrise. But unlike the cosmic serenity of Outer Wilds or the existential despair of Returnal, Deathloop is about mastery. It's a puzzle box where the solution isn't escape, it's perfection. Each loop in Deathloop gives you more information: who's where, when they're vulnerable, and how the day's events overlap. It becomes less about survival and more about choreography, executing the perfect day where every move aligns. The countdown isn't a threat, it's an invitation to refine. Where Majora's Mask made you dread repetition, Deathloop celebrates it. Time becomes the ultimate design challenge, a system to be bent, studied, and conquered. But beneath its playful tone, Deathloop still carries a familiar melancholy. Once you break the cycle, the world you've mastered disappears. Every plan, every pattern, every relationship resets into nothing. Like the other time loop games before it, Deathloop reminds us that mastery doesn't mean freedom, it just means you've learned the rhythm of your cage. In the games we've talked about today, time is more than a narrative device. It's a mirror reflecting our own relationship with control and inevitability. Majora's Mask shows us the despair of knowing the end is coming. Outer Wilds teaches us to find peace through understanding. Returnal uses repetition as an expression of psychological imprisonment, and Deathloop turns it into a performance, a dance we can only stop once we perfect it. What ties them together is the way they treat time as something both cruel and meaningful. It's not an invisible clock ticking in the background, it's the pulse that defines every action. These games don't just ask you to beat the system, they ask you to exist within it, to accept its inevitability. When time becomes the enemy, games reveal something profound about why we play them in the first place. They give us loops, countdowns, and second chances because life doesn't. We can fail, reset, and try again. We can study our mistakes until they make sense, and even when the cycle ends, when the moon falls, when the sun explodes, when the loop breaks, we walk away changed, carrying the knowledge we earned through repetition. Time in most games is a convenience, a resource we can pause or ignore. But in these rare worlds, it's the one thing that refuses to yield. Whether it's the ticking clock of Majora's Mask, the doomed universe of Outer Wilds, the haunting echoes of Returnal, or the stylish choreography of Deathloop, time gives shape to every emotion: fear, awe, frustration, and triumph. These games remind us that repetition isn't just a mechanic, it's a form of storytelling. Through it, we learn patience, mastery, and acceptance. We find meaning not in breaking the loop, but in understanding it. Because in the end, time is always the enemy, and learning to live with it is the only way we ever win. Hey everybody, thank you so much as always for watching these videos. I truly appreciate your time. If you're new here, maybe think about going down, clicking that subscribe button, the like button, and hit that notification bell if you want more videos like this in the future. And on mobile, there's a hype feature now. If you know how to use that, do that. That'd be cool. Thank you for watching. As always, I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.